So what does that mean? So if I'm spending $10,000 on the solar package on the roof, I could get $2,600 back as a tax credit? Is that?
Oh, yeah.
Hey guys, welcome to the new episode of Break It Down with Braydon. I got Jan Green on me today. Jan, thanks for joining.
Hey, thanks for allowing me to be here.
Of course. Jan is with HomeSmart Realty and has been in the business for...
Oh my gosh, November will be 20 years.
20 years. Mm-hmm. Very cool. So you got some experience in the industry.
Just have been around the block a couple times.
Love it. And Jan and I actually met through Aaron Shanka with Meets and Bounds Appraisals. Had him on the podcast the other week, and he was like, you know what? Who would be an amazing guest to have on your podcast? And I was like, who's that? And he was like, Jan Green. I was like, awesome. Would love to meet her. So Jan and I had lunch last week, actually, and just got to know each other and learned a little bit about what Jan's got going on, and she's doing some really cool things in the green space in real estate. So kind of tell everybody a little bit about kind of what you've been doing in the green space in the real estate industry and kind of how much of a deep dive you've kind of gone into that.
Oh, sure. There's so much that's happened in the last 14 years that I've been doing this. Really cool thing. I formed a committee twice and added about 65 green features to the MLS so that you can actually market them effectively.
Yeah.
There's still some features missing, still working on that. Probably going to come up with another list soon and get going on that.
65 green features.
Yeah.
Give me some examples.
Well, like if your house is certified, Energy Star, LEED certified, Scottsdale Green Building Program. If you've put in a tankless water heater, my next feature I want to add is heat pump water heater. And so there's some new advancements taking place. But yeah, if you've got some cool features and you spend money, don't you want money back on an appraisal?
Yep.
And that's one of my other projects that I've been doing since 2013. Hosting 2-day appraiser courses is so rewarding. I sit through every single one of them. So we raise between $8,000-$10,000 typically and fly the instructor from Florida. And I sit there through all 2 days helping her and to get that class going. And so that's how I know Aaron is through him attending 2 days of appraisal courses. And actually he's attended all 4 so he can be on the Appraisal Institute list and work effectively to value these features and own solar panels.
Yeah. Yeah, so primarily, obviously, the big topic is solar panels, of course, and how they value on a resale.
Oh, yes.
So talk a little bit about kind of how that works and how you've been able to help appraisers kind of with the valuation of solar panels.
Sure. I've had a few listings of my own with own solar panels and been able to meet the appraiser and walk them through it and explain that you can't just use paired sales, which is what an appraiser would call another comparable sale. They call them paired sales in the appraisal world. But the most important thing when it comes to valuing solar panels is knowing what you own. A lot of people think that, they paid off a lease and then it's an owned system, but it's not, because there's a UCC filing in place with the Secretary of State's office, and until that's released, then that system is still treated as personal property, like a security system.
Got it.
So a lot of people don't know what they own. They may have bought a house with leased solar panels. They forget their lease. They're making payments. They may know that it's leased, but they don't know the ramifications that it has no value.
Yep.
So it takes somebody that understands all this to sell those homes. And unfortunately, 95% of the residential solar in Arizona is leased.
95%?
95% of it.
Yeah, I didn't know it was that high.
Yeah, I heard that directly from Sandy Adamatis in Florida. She's a vice president of the Appraisal Institute, and she's the one that teaches the classes that we host as volunteers with U.S. Green Building Council. So, yeah.
So what is the way that people should be doing it then?
Oh, they should own them.
Okay.
Even if you finance solar panels and you use their financing, if you refinance and wrap that into your mortgage, which a lot of people don't want to do anymore, but you could use your home equity line of credit, because once you do that, that UCC filing is removed with that other type of financing, and then you own the panels, even though you're financing and making payments on them. Yep. So if you pay cash or you have your own financing, that's when there's no UCC filing, and an appraiser can give you value for those solar panels, and then they're owned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also hear there's some changes coming with the tax credits and things like that. Is there anything you comment on
Yeah, with this latest bill that was just passed, we were at 26% for a tax credit for solar panels. Well, that's bumped back up to 30% for the next 10 years.
So what does that mean? So if I'm spending $10,000 on the solar package on the roof, I could get $2,600 back as a tax credit? Is that how it works?
Well, that's the way it was until this bill was passed. Now it's 30%, so $3,000.
Okay.
So, like, I spent $20,000 on my panels, and my credit was $5,600 and some odd dollars at 26%. Well, now it's 30%.
Okay, so it's even
I would have gotten a $6,000 tax credit, and that's the one key thing people forget. It's not a credit or a check; it's a tax credit on your tax return, and then you get $1,000 from the state. You know, if you're in a different state, obviously it works differently. Different states offer different credits and incentives. Yeah, but the tax credit in and of itself is now 30%. And that's also for other energy efficient features as well. So you want to definitely check. I saw a link on Consumer Reports. So if somebody, Google the latest bill, the exact name of it, and put Consumer Reports, you'll see the report on it. So you know that you're getting authentic, valid information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some other changes going on in the solar world?
Oh, boy. Well, the panels are getting more and more efficient, more and more energy efficient. The cost has come down significantly for a system. But what I see the most thing that people make the most mistakes about is they assume, like I was on a thread. This is a good example. I was on a thread on Nextdoor that invariably goes on and on and on, with neighbors making comments. Oh, boy, right? And it went on and on and on. And all of the misinformation I was hearing, that people don't know that the solar panels are more efficient. They still think, if you replace one solar panel, it's really expensive. It's not. And solar panels have come down significantly in cost, and they're so much more energy efficient, too.
That's one thing I've learned about the solar industry is there's such a misnomer or a misconception as to what it all entails, what the costs are, what the appraised value is, if it's resold, if it actually is beneficial for the resale of the property. There's just so many factors that come into play in terms of education of solar panels and the green industry and with houses. And
with realtors.
Yeah.
I actually figured out an informal poll, and it was running itself. I was on Facebook, and somebody posed one question: do solar panels have value? I read all 386 comments and tallied the yes, no, and maybe. And the solid yeses were 66 agents out of 386 that thought they might have value. I thought, oh my gosh, the misinformation even amongst the realtor population is vast.
Now you bring up the leased versus purchase, though. If it is leased, is it kind of a deterrent to the home sale?
Oh yeah, that's a whole nother ball game. And what happens is too, people have this fixation in their mind. They're only focused on the payment. They don't look at the energy savings. However, I've seen the older systems that aren't as efficient that really don't offset as much of the bill as they should. And I've also seen some information of people were promised a certain energy efficiency production, and they weren't receiving it. So I've seen all kinds of crazy.
And when we talked, you've got somebody that comes out and does like an analysis or something like that, right? To see how much energy they're going to need from their panels.
Actually, there's a new company in town in Mesa. Corey has founded Spark Green Home Report, and he's working on providing value and depreciation and showing the utility savings on your solar systems. Even if they're leased, he'll run all that data for you. And the cool thing is, at least it's an extra third-party report. He actually owns a solar company, and he told me he felt bad about selling leased systems, selling as it is, right? He felt bad because he knew those leased systems weren't worth anything in terms of value for the home. And so he started this reporting so consumers can get that data. And to educate agents, because you can use it as a listing tool. He's perfecting it. He's still working on fine-tuning it. I was on a joint call with him and Sandy a couple of weeks ago and about the report and what tweaks that need to be changed and all of that. And it's really going to be great data. So I'm excited about that.
And I know there's some differences between APS and SRP in terms of
yes, and
what they allow,
sure.
and in terms of like one of them requires you to like bank the power, right, and the other one goes back to the supplier.
Right. That's pretty good guesstimation. APS and SRP are different. I have not kept up on SRP, but I am an APS customer and have been for the 25 years I've been in Arizona. But APS, they charge everybody an amount under $5. As soon as solar started becoming a predominant fixture in Arizona in about 2014, they decided, well, yeah, we need to add a demand charge. So everybody in APS territory gets to pay that. In SRP, it's a little bit different. But APS also does still have net metering. They still credit your the power that you've paid for that you're producing more than you're using, right? They'll keep that credit on file. And then at the end of the year, if you still have a credit, they might cut you a check. And I say might because I don't know when net metering is going to end in APS territory. And I know SRP customers have told me that they do not have net metering. But SRP has some different things, and I know other people in SRP territory can speak specifically to that since they're a private company. APS is public, so it's two different apples and oranges comparisons.
Yeah. It's it'll be interesting, kind of how they handle the industry going forward, especially with what's going on with Europe and how expensive their energy has gotten over there, and so it's,
right. I do remember one program too, specifically that I should speak about because SRP was offering something unique at one point in time. I'm not sure they still do, but it was where if you had, say you had an electric car and you wanted to add an EV charger and you wanted to power that, or you wanted to add a battery wall and you wanted to power that, they would let you put on a solar panel to offset that, and they would not add a demand charge. But SRP's demand charge is a little less than $30 if you had added solar to your house. So it was different versus the demand charge of less than $5 in APS. So you were kind of penalized in SRP territory for adding solar. So I don't know if they're going to change it or if they have recently. I'm not up on that news. So
Gotcha.
yeah, honest disclosure.
Yep. I know we talked about, so obviously solar is like the number one thing you could be doing to be saving on your energy costs. What are some other things that are kind of big things you could be doing for your house?
Oh, there's so many things now. There's so many cool products and services. But the one key thing to remember is when people think energy efficiency, their first thought goes to solar. When actually what you should do is reduce your energy bill first with other measures that are less expensive, that have a quicker return on investment. Like the easiest thing is light bulbs.
Switching everything to LED.
LED light bulbs are the quickest return on investment. They last longer. They produce more light, more lumens. And then, of course, you've got sunscreens to block the south and west sun. That is really cool. Before that sun hits the window, and before it hits even if it's a single pane, put the sunscreens on there, right? Seal the windows. There's, duct sealing, more expensive spray foam insulation if you did swap out insulation.
Talk about that. We talked about we talked about kind of the different types of foams and different sprays and stuff, and you were pretty educated on that. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, well, thanks for that, because I have added all of these things to my house. So I've turned my 1979 house from a very inefficient home into a super efficient home. It's the first Pearl Gold certified house in Arizona. And when I did all those features, the spray foam, duct sealing is a really cool thing. Seal all your ducts and registers, stop the air leaks. That's really inexpensive, and it's a quick payback, like less than 3 years. So I did all that stuff, and then I added solar. So I have a lot fewer panels than my neighbors. So it's a quick payback. But, and too, if you're not paying interest, then your payback is quicker, obviously. But it depends on if you want to lose the use of that cash, right? So, but there's so many things you can do. My next thing I think I told you about is just way cool. So I did a study on this, and I write blogs, and so I did all this research on water heaters. The most cost-effective way to reduce your energy bill from your water heater is with a heat pump water heater, right? The heat pump water heater, what I am really jazzed about, right, is how hot your garage is. And your hot water heater, in your garage, right? And it's sitting there in that hot, you can get hot water pretty easy probably, especially if your copper pipes are in your attic in these very old homes from 1960 and older, right? So my next water heater is going to be a heat pump water heater that will draw the heat out of the garage, heat the water, and spit cold air out to cool my Tesla so that my fan motor doesn't kick on to cool the battery.
Right.
When my garage is 100 plus degrees, right? So that's the final piece of the puzzle I'm going to be doing myself. And I did compare, and I've asked the professionals, the heat pump water heater is more efficient than a tankless.
Huh.
Right? And it uses less power and heats up the water quick.
You said it just kind of looks a little funky, but as
it
long
does.
as,
It's a
long as
little
it's in
tall.
the garage, it is what it is.
Yeah, it's like your water heater normal size, and it's got this little extra, heat pump on top of it,
Yep.
The compressor and all that. So, and you know what? It's really cool. I talked to a realtor in Atlanta, and he separated the two. He put the water heater in one place, and he put the compressor part, the heat pump part, in another place to blow cold air in a different room than the water heater. I thought, wow, that's creative.
Yeah.
Because he's a different climate zone. He has more humidity. So he was using it almost to dehumidify a space, which I thought, wow, that's cool. We don't have that problem in Arizona.
Right.
Until monsoon season. Right.
Yeah, obviously there's a huge need for the green education, education in solar. I think I was talking to a pretty big roofing contractor the other day, and I think he said like 1 in 3 roofs that he gets on have a solar system now.
Mm-hmm.
So being educated on solar systems, being educated on all the efficiencies that we could be putting into our houses, I think with the cost of energy drastically rising, with cost of gas prices continuing to go up, it seems like it's definitely something that people should be more educated on.
Oh, they really should. And when you're choosing a roofer, you want to make sure they have experience with dealing with that system.
Yep.
Number one, you have to call your solar company to remove those panels. They will charge you, most likely, to remove those panels and then reinstall them. But then they're going to warranty whatever they've done to the roof when they put those holes back in. Or they know where they were in the beginning. Maybe the holes are still there, right?
Yep.
In the base, what do you call that? The lid of the roof. Yeah. That board, right?
Yep.
Okay. But the cool thing is, too, I think realtors are getting more and more educated. A friend of mine, Melissa Camp, teaches a green designation. I just saw today another group of graduates from her 2-day course in Arizona. So the realtors are becoming educated, but nationally, less than half of 1% of the members of the National Association of Realtors, which is, 1.5 million, less than 1.5% have any kind of green designation or education.
Huh.
So it's a very small number. I mean, if we have 175 green agents in Arizona out of 90,000, that's kind of a good comparison to know who's educated. So you want to have somebody that's educated when you sell your home. When you're buying homes, you want that knowledge and expertise of how that home, maybe that roof is not going to be the right home for solar. Maybe that home is not going to be that right home for you with indoor air quality.
Yep.
You really want an educated agent.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors that go into it.
Oh, yes. And like you're saying, solar, a huge need for education.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
Jan, for anybody that wants to get a hold of you, how could they reach you?
Oh, sure. Well, my website's kind of hinky. Instead of got milk, it's got green.
Oh, I love it.
Gotgreen.info or 602-620-2699.
Love it. Jan Green, HomeSmart Realty, guys. Go check her out. She definitely knows what she's talking about in the green space. Braydon Dennis, Great American Title, and thanks for sticking around for another episode of Break It Down with Braydon. And see you guys soon for more to come. Thank you.